Hi, how are you all? Hope you are doing well. Welcome back to Unlock Jenkins Pipeline Secret series. As part of this series, today I come back with a very interesting concept, which is very essential in the script development. That's called what are the different ways to set the Jenkins environment variables. As you know, in the previous session, we already discussed about the what are the different types of variables like global variables and stage level variables and steps variables, and we demonstrated on the fly with a simple example, but those are all not up to the realistic and real environment. So today I would like to dive deeply into how to set these environment variables in the script, and for that we have a different ways to set the environment variables. One is we can use a global environment variables. So today I would like to explain the two techniques because this is a very long and lengthy uh, discussion on this topic. I would like to break down into three videos so that I will try to cover all the 9 techniques before dive into the next level of automation scripts. So, if you want to define a variable in the Jenkins, we have a different ways. One is a global environment variables, and second one is we can define the variable at the job level. We can define the variables at the properties file, and also we can use a build parameters, and also we can use a with env block, and you can also define the variable if you define the pipeline in a separate file called Jenkins file, and also we can execute the we can build the variables using shell or batch commands, and also if you come up with the different the third party plugins, using third party plugins also we can configure the environment variables. And finally, Jenkins have its own predefined system environment variables. So these are the different ways are available in the Jenkins to set up your environment variables. Now let's come back to the first technique called as a global environment variables. Now you may get one question. In the previous recorded session, we already explained the global level variables and the stage level variables and steps level variables. But why you are going to talk about the global environment variables? So actually, if you observe it, last discussion, we configure the global variables within the pipeline job. Am I right? Within the pipeline job. Suppose you may create one more job. So can we access such variable outside of the pipeline job? Suppose I have a 20 jobs are there. For example, 20 different jobs are there. 20 different jobs are there. I want to access such a variable across my 20 jobs. Can you? No. It means this is yesterday, I mean in the last discussion we discussed configuring the environment variable at the job level. But that is not a global variable. If you are dedicatedly looking at the single pipeline job, if your pipeline is going to starts with the pipeline tag and pipeline keyword, and if you start with the environment variable, that environment variables we define at the pipeline level within the single job. But global in the sense what? Global in the sense what? If I have hundreds of jobs are there, I want to share those jobs across my multiple jobs. How can I do it? So let us start with the practice. What I'm going to demonstrate for you is Jenkins provides a technique for us to define your variables at the global environments, and go to there and configure your global variables. Then you try to access such variables from the global side. So for that, my steps are: first you define the variables. You define the variables. Then you try to access those variable from the job, and finally you try to execute it. So for this, I would like to take one real-time scenario. Real-time scenario is how to clone my code from the GitHub repository. This is my simple scenario. I want to download my code from the GitHub repository. Maybe everyone understand that this is also very simple, Srinivas. We already knew that using the Jenkins pipeline, we are able to clone it. But trust me, listen carefully, and you will get a lot of bullet points. That's why from the beginning I'm telling you, our focus is on not simply writing the code on the fly. I want to demonstrate what are the various tips involved behind the scene. Okay. So first of all, before executing this job, let us connect into my Jenkins. Here I'm in the Jenkins. This is called as a manage Jenkins. And one more thing is I already discussed in the real world, Jenkins is going to access by two users. One is administrator and second one is the project user. So here in big organizations, this span is completely disabled for you guys. Unless until you may get some authentication authorization over this page. So later we'll discuss administration topics. Just understand we logged as administrator user. And in the manage Jenkins, if you want to define a global variables, scroll down. There is a system configuration is there. Under system configuration, there is a system. In this link, if you click this link, using the system, we can configure the global settings and path. So what I'm trying to say here, first of all, if you want to define it, go to the manage Jenkins. Under manage Jenkins, there is a system, configure system. In this configure system, we can define the global things, global variables, and also you can set your path. Okay, so let's go. Now just scroll down. Just to scroll down. See, there is a global properties are there. Again, I'm repeating, if you define the variables in this configure system, any number of jobs in your Jenkins can able to access. That is called actual meaning of global. That's why in the previous example, we demonstrated how to define the variable within the single job called pipeline. If I have multiple pipeline jobs, if I have hundreds of pipeline jobs, suppose I want to access one variable or multiple variable across the different jobs, how can I do it? This is one of the technique is you just come down to the configure system. See, there is a environment variables. You just select the checkbox, click on add button. Now I'm going to define variable is suppose get underscore repo URL. Now, have you noticed one point in the environment directives or now in the global environment variables, I use a capital letter. In generally, you must use environment variables in the capital letters so that we can easily differentiate between the local variables and other variables as well as the global variables. Of course, even without developing the variables in the capital letters also can access, but for differentiation purpose, for easy debugging, for easy to access, you should always remember this is one of the convention. So now I'm going to define my variable called as a git repo URL. Now one of the value is, suppose I want to define my GitHub repository, https github.com itengineers99, there is a CI/CD project.git is there. So this is my repository, git CI/CD project.git. Okay, this is a variable, and even I'm going to define another environment variables. So here I'm giving like a branch name, branch underscore name. So one of the branch called, either you can define the master or main. Right now my repository was pointed to the main. You can also change to the master also. That's not a big deal here. So here I define two variables. One is a repository URL. The second one is the branch name. So try to apply and save it. So now what we did here, I define environment variables in the Jenkins configure system window with the two variables, right? One is get underscore repo underscore URL. The second one is a branch name, right? So of course, all capital letter. So once you define these variables, now my question is next, how to access these variables from the Jenkins job? So I would like to demonstrate by integrating those two variables for the scenario called as I want to clone the code from GitHub. So for this, I'm going to define a pipeline job. Go back to the new item. So I want to define a job called as a pipeline job. So listen carefully. I said we are trying to access the variable. We are going to define the variable with the first technique called the global environment variables, not the job level. In the previous example, we demonstrated the job level. That's why variables, even I'm not attached to the Groovy concept. Still, a lot of things we need to discuss. That's why I said this is a very long and lengthy series, guys. Maximum we are trying to cover from the scratch to advanced level. So you should have some patience to understand all this stuff. So still, I never talk about the data types, like even primitive data types, even wrapper classes, even string data types. So even I didn't talk about the types. Even I didn't talk about the static typing and dynamic typing. Even I didn't talk about other Groovy things. First of all, I want to take you into the basic track. So once you get an idea, I will slowly inject the concept into the programming world. So that's why we started discussion on the variables, how to define the variables and how to print the variable. Now today, I want to use these variables in more programmatic world and also link it with the one real environment. That's called cloning the code from repository. So here, clone code from repo is my job name, and I'm selecting the pipeline. And multiple times I said the pipeline itself, a name of the job. If you want to see this job, you should have one plugin called as a pipeline plugin. So trust me, by finishing all these 9 techniques, you will get 3 to 4 different plugins. Using those plugins, will configure our variables and we can execute it. All right. So just scroll down. So now I want to build a pipeline script here. I want to build a pipeline script here. So as you know, this is called declarative pipeline. For example, here I'm giving a hash single quotes, sorry, single line comment, right? Of course, Groovy supports the single line comments, multi-line comments. Okay, even we'll discuss string and G-string objects, G-string data types. Wait. So in the declarative pipeline, your pipeline start with the pipeline keyword, and I want to run my Jenkins job on specific agent in the sense, not specific agent, any available agent. Now, the first key question is how to access a global variables which you define in the configure system page. To access such variables, I want to open environment directives. That's the reason in the previous discussion we started one of the directive called as environment directive. Now the key question is, in earlier example, within the environment directives we define a variable is equal to value, but my variable and values are in the configure system. Now how to access such variables? So that moment I do one thing, I declare my own variable called as a repo URL. Repo URL is my variable. That variable is going to going to initialize some value. So what is a value? Value is nothing but my GitHub URL. Like IT engineers 99, my repository is a CI/CD project.git. But that value is linked with which variable? Global variable. Which global variable? Git underscore repo underscore URL. Then how to access such variables? Through Jenkins. That's why here I want to introduce one of the env object which we already discussed earlier. So looking at double quotes, dollar is always pointing to the variable. Those variables are configured in the global configure system. Such variables are accessed through env dot. What is the variable we use? Git underscore repo underscore URL. This is called a value and close it. So did you observe this within the double quotes? Within the double quotes, I define the dollar as well as the start the braces and the braces. What is this? What is this? Why can't you directly define a dollar with a variable name? Because our variables are initialized within the configure system. So that's why here, why you are using this left bracket and right bracket. What is this actually? This is called as a G string. This is called as a G string. Normally, your Groovy supports two types of data types. One is a normal string and a G string. G string in the sense Groovy string. Groovy string. So a string is a predefined object type, and G string is also a data type. So that's why you are using the G string. What is the differences between a string and a G string? Yes, we'll discuss. We'll discuss in the data types. That's why when you are building the line of the automation script, you have to understand. You should not simply copy and paste the code, guys. So using the G string in the sense string interpolation. Interpolation in the sense what if you want to access some value of the variable, to store the value of the variable we use dollar start the braces and the braces. So technically what is called as, it's called as G string, guys. It's called G string data type. G string used to store the value of the variable. So we'll discuss clearly. It's called as a supports interpolation. That's why G string is a what? G string is a reference data type in Groovy. We'll discuss later. Okay. The same time, I'm going to define my another variable called as the branch name is equal to double quotes dollar env dot our variable name called as a branch underscore name. See, git underscore repo URL, branch underscore name are the variables we define in the configure system. So through env predefined object we are going to pointing. So this line will look for the configure system, get the value and store that value into the variable. So in the environment directives, by default, the data type is a what? String. But you can also declare multiple data types. That's why I said, right, building the pipeline is an art. You should not blindly write down the 20 or 30 or 40 lines with simple stages, steps with integration of the Kubernetes command and Ansible commands or that. It is not happening because pipeline is nothing but a collection of various actions. Each and every action is going to integrate with the various blocks of the code. While building the block of the code, you need to focus on the data definition, data translation, data interpolation, data transferring, and data transport and data translation is not in a single block. Multiple blocks are there. That's why logical programming is always required. So keep in mind. Okay, now within the environment directives, I define it. Okay, now let us open the stage section. Under stage, I want to define a stage. My stage name is a clone code from GitHub. Okay, now under stage, we need to define the steps, right? So why should I define the steps? Why should I define the steps here? If you want to access the actions, if you want to perform any steps on the tools or your own pipeline, isn't it? So now within the steps, what we need to do? We need to access the variables. We already discussed in the previous session, whatever the variables we discussed, we initialize in the environment directives. It is not available within the steps block. But if you want to access those variables, we have to open the script block, right? Open the script block. Okay. Now within the script block, what I want to define? I want to clone my code from repository. If you want to clone a code from repository, Jenkins supports various statements, like a git is a DSL statement, checkout is a DSL statement. Even we can you can execute git raw commands, right? We can slightly clone it. Now here I want to raise one question. Think properly. So first focus on the output, then I will raise the question. So what is a DSL statement? If you want to understand the DSL statement, go to the pipeline syntax. I want to open in a new tab. There is a predefined step called what? DSL step called git. Git is a predefined DSL step. So if you use a git, this command will take two arguments. One is a URL, comma branch name, isn't it? The two arguments you have to pass it. Even if you are facing issue to remember, or if you are very new to the first time, do one thing: go back to the pipelines snippet editors, scroll down, look at one of the DSL statement called as a get. See, get, isn't it? So then we have to define our URL. You have to define the URL. For example, https colon github.com/it engineers99 /cicd project.get. This is called public repository. I don't require to configure the username and passwords. Now this is not the master. I think it is called main, and you don't require any credential. Just click on pipeline script. See, get, copy this. Sorry, go back and paste the line here. So get branch is the main and URL is the this one. But if you observe it, this is the value which we already defined through one variable called as a git underscore repo underscore URL. And main also we configure through one of the variable called as a git branch. Now how to substitute these two values in the script? Go back. See, in the steps section, yeah, get the URL. The URL is we already configure. So this is the variable, right? Repo URL, isn't it? Now to access that variable URL, so double quotes, dollar, start the bracket, env.repo URL. See, repo URL is the variable. Okay, now just close it. Now we need one more argument, right? Comma. Right. What is another argument? So another argument is what? Branch, isn't it? Branch colon. Right. So double quotes, dollar, env dot, what's available here? Branch name, env dot branch name. Yeah, branch name. So this is the statement. So this is the syntax to clone your code. Now you may get one question. Normally guys will use this syntax very straightly, like git branch main and URL. But why should I configure the variable in the other sections? That is called programming. That is called customization. That is called configuration. That's why don't simply execute the Groovy statement with the simple statements. You need to customize it. I said, right, suppose I have a 20 jobs are there. Each and every job I need a same variable. So I don't want to configure those variables and values repeatedly, time wasting process. If you don't know this concept, how can you configure it? Sometimes your project, suppose you are running a legacy project like last 10 years onwards, you are working on the Jenkins, then lots of customization is there in your organization. Some variables are defined in the external file like a properties file, right, or maybe some other external files according to the project demand. That moment, if you don't understand how to configure all these variables, what is the use? That's why improve your programming capacities and understand the various logical things and understand the various sections of the Groovy code to improvise your pipeline structure. Right. Let us go back and first execute whether it's going to be run successfully or not. If not, we'll see the errors. Apply and save it. So, what is the story here? One of the technique called as a global environment variables. So through Jenkins, through Jenkins configure system, I want to clone a code from repository. If you want to clone a code from repository, people know this git is a DSL statement, checkout is a DSL statement, and there is a direct, we can execute the direct git raw commands using the shell, right? But why you guys are always using the git and checkout only? Why can't you directly go with sh? Boom. No one will answer. So I don't want to use a checkout and I don't want to use a git. I want to execute some raw commands. Even sh is a one shell built in. One of the DSL statement is a sh. Yes, even using the sh, I can perform my clone, right? Git clone. Then why you are using the git DSL from the Jenkins? Why you are using the checkout? See, in which situation we are going for sh? Yes, that's why if any operations are not performed through git and checkout, for example, I want to work with the rebase, I want to work with the submodules, or I want to integrate with some custom git operations, which is never work out with the git and checkout. That moment we have to use the sh. That's why who said or who am I to say that this is the only one way to implement the Groovy in our regular automation? No. So once you understand the core concept in the Jenkins with the Groovy, then you will understand various flavors of the syntaxes and techniques. So don't blindly write a git sh like a git or checkout. I know that. No, there is no use. If you go to the project environment, you need to face so many complex programs. That moment, if you have a Groovy knowledge, then you will easily understand. Just go and click on the build now. Now it's getting the build number. My build number is executing. Now see, I got the success. So I got the success. Go to the console output. Even if you want to see that, go back to our Jenkins directory. Now I'm going to log on as a root user. You know very well what is the home directory of your Jenkins. Go to var underlib there is a Jenkins. So var lib Jenkins is the home directory of your Jenkins. My present working directory is var lib Jenkins ls. Now cd workspace. Under workspace, yes, we have cd clone code from repository ls. Now see, my code is successfully cloned from the repository. I didn't say clone. What is that? What is the nature? So whether it is a cloned or not, what type of clone it is, a shallow cloning or deep cloning? So what is the main purpose? So what happened when you fire the git command? What happened when you use a checkout? For example, let me go to the console output. Now Jenkins is successfully cloning the code from repository, and it shows like various list of DSL steps how it works. So that's the reason I said this is a long and lengthy series, guys. It's it's very long and lengthy sessions to understand each and every point very clearly. Then only we'll try to build a lot of automation scripts in a sequence way. See, my Jenkins job is running on this directory. It means it is saved. Now, so it's a cloning the repository. Next, it will execute, and finally we got the success. But in between these lines, we have so many things that happen. But if I say, you will get confused, we'll slowly discuss later. Whenever the situation encounter, I will explain it. So this demonstration gives you a one confident point is, in Jenkins there is a global environment variables concept is there. It means Jenkins provides a configure system tab. Within the tab, you can define your own values. Those variables you are going to access through environment directives. And also we discussed about how to clone the code from repository. Okay. And while cloning the code from repository, Git is not only a one option. We can also use with a checkout. Even we can also use sh command. So why can't, for example, if you blindly go to here. So this technique is purely what? Global environment variables. I'm not defined the variables at the job level. My variables are defined in the global environment variables, so that even if you go to the new job, it will access. That's why if you have a plenty of jobs, if you want to access it, how to do it? So that's called as a global environment variables. Suppose, so I want to clone the code using the checkout. The major differences between the Git and checkout is a more useful than the Git, more effective. Checkout in the sense it's going to work out with any source code management. For example, I want to clone with the SVN repositories, or I want to work with a Bitbucket, or you want to work with the other SVN, another VCS concept. But Git is purely work for the Git only. But as you know that source code management tools are not only Git, even we have SVN repositories, right? So if you have a multiple version controlling tools are there, if you want to work out with any one of the automation tool, then you can use checkout. For example, go back here. Instead of DSL statement like get, you can also use a checkout. Let me check. Yeah, checkout from the version controlling. So if I select this DSL statement is asking what is the URL. My URL is this one, isn't it? I copy this, go back to the snippet generator. It's a public repository. Even I can, in the next session, I will demonstrate how to work with the private repositories, which includes the Git and also like HTTPS and SSH and GitHub CLI. I will tell you, I will explain you, wait. And even will configure the usernames and passwords. Even we are focusing on how to work with the access tokens. That's why I said, right, it is a long and lengthy series, guys. Now, I just go and click on the pipeline script generation. Now, when I execute this time, you will get a complex lines. One of the line is see, there is a checkout, and SCM get. We got the branch names, and we got the extension, and we got the user remote config. So in the next discussion, I'll tell you, suppose I want to clone the code from multiple URLs. Suppose I have a code in the GitHub and another module of the code is in the SVN repository, or maybe my code commit in the AWS or Azure repo in the Azure DevOps portal. That moment, okay, then I want to clone the code from multiple branches. How can I? So that's why if you use a git and checkout, what type of option, what type of cloning it happens, whether it's going to do fetch or whether it's going to perform clone. If it is a clone, what type of cloning it is a shallow cloning or deep cloning? Then what is the differences between deep cloning and cloning? So that's why you guys are simply performing a command call as a git or checkout. Okay, one simple step. Now I know how to clone it. So that's why Groovy is not for simple way. It's not only for Git. Even go with the Kubernetes. Even go with the your own favorite Ansible. That's why define a framework. So define a framework. Maintain the logical parts. Okay, that logical parts will come into the picture by understanding the various concepts which is given by the Jenkins as well as a tight integration with the Groovy. That's why we'll come back in the next. That's why this part is almost 3 to 4 videos I will try to generate. I want to cover all these 9 techniques. Once I explain it, we'll slowly enter into the next level. So, hope you understand, and please try to subscribe and like it and share it if you really like it. If you are not understanding, I'm very sorry. If you are not able to understand, you can ignore also. Thank you so much. See you in the next discussion for the continuing part. Bye.